to the one he loved. Look at Jesus said when he sent 72 people to go and preach, and they came back. Jesus was so happy, said, Father, blessed are you for hiding these things to the learned and those who are wise, and revealing them to the mere little children. What does that mean? It simply means that contemplation reveals God's hidden mystery, and those who have the eyes of contemplation sees it in that light, and it is not out of knowledge, out of teaching. It is something deeper and something beyond human knowledge. Now we go further. Our making and our contemplation. Now I will like equally to briefly summarize for people who may close their eyes, and when they close their eyes, they thought that contemplation is when you begin to see heaven coming down, or you are moving. At a certain point in time, heaven will open, and then you see Jesus sitting in the throne. As you see Jesus sitting in his throne, you'll be interacting to you, you'll be hearing him, he'll be talking to you, you will even touch his garment. In fact, Jesus will now carry the crown of thorns and put on your head. I want to warn you, this is not contemplation. Pay attention to what you want to talk about contemplation. I pray that it will not discourage you on this journey, but let it inspire you to move forward. Now, we now said our making and contemplation. Image, thoughts, consolation, consideration, discernment, and so on belong to our committed faith as part of our discipleship, but not on the contemplative way. I have to explain this. When you come to prayer, you close your eyes and you want to contemplate, and you are seeing some images. You are seeing your heart is very happy. You are feeling that you feel like crying. You feel like flying. You begin to see some crowd coming around you. Some angels are now descending and ascending and so on. All these things is what we regard as what's called the, we say that it belongs to the committed faith. As part of our discipleship, we gain this thing as an article of faith. We are privileged to have this because of faith. It is not yet contemplation. Then what then is contemplation? How can we talk about contemplation? Now, look at something here. We now say that reflection, meditation, okay, they are all, okay, now, I complete the sentence, say, they are all our making, a job well done for Christ, but not the way of contemplative life. I repeat that question, that sentence again. I said, images, thought, consolations. Images is like seeing some images, thoughts, something coming to your heart. Hey, you feel like, or consolation, you feel your heart was so sweet. Consideration, as you are journeying, you are considering many things, you are ascending some mountain. Discernment, you are discerning angels coming down, and so on. We now say that all this belong to a committed faith as part of our discipleship, but not to the contemplative way. They are all our making, a job well done for Christ, but not the way of contemplative life. Then, reflections, meditations, and the application of senses belong to our practice of faith, but not to the contemplative looking and gazing. So, when we are reflecting in contemplation, we see ourselves reflecting on something, we see ourselves meditating on something, we are applying our senses, trying to practice, do some certain things. All these efforts is still on the practice of faith. It is still on active meditation. It is not yet. It has not come to be what we call gazing, contemplative gaze or contemplative looking. In contemplation, all these things is not there. How I wish you understand what I'm saying. Now, we further go. Moving to the inner room. When Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6-7, that when you want to pray, you have to go into your inner room to pray. What does Jesus actually mean by that? Jesus is trying to tell us that the place of contemplation is the inner house. Let me just say something here. Private room here means storeroom. In the ancient Greek or in the Hebrew world, when they talk private room, this is a storeroom, a room that has a very tiny window. And we call it treasure without window. At times, if you have a window, it will be very, very tiny. Once the door is shut, you cannot look in or outside. The moment you close that particular door, you cannot see outside. So, as long as you are preoccupied in your prayer with thought, with feeling, you are not yet in your private room. You may be sitting on the balcony. So, in the journey of contemplation, as long as we are still thinking, feeling, have some feeling, you are not yet in the private room. You are still, maybe you must come closer to the house, maybe at the balcony. Thought and feelings connect you with the world and stir up your psyche. So when you go into contemplation and you are thinking and some feelings are coming into your heart, you are still there, you have not actually lost in the contemplation. So because with this thought and all this, your psyche is somehow being connected to the world. You are still having some interaction with the world. You are not yet at the contemplative place. Now, with your thoughts, the door is not bolted yet. You are not yet lost in the darkness of the room. The time change has not yet been accomplished. You have not passed through the eyes of the needle. Change lies between the balcony and the private room. There we will meet the Father. So, if there is this thought, there are these some imageries and some form of ideas coming up, consolation, your body is being shaken, you are feeling somehow like anointing is catching you. You are still in the active journey. In the contemplation, all these things should not be there. It has to be calmness and quietness, complete emptiness. So we need to enter into a hallowed darkness. Remember what we are talking about, journey into getting in touch with our being, getting in touch with ourselves. When I give you the simple practice of centering prayer, is to see the possibility of drawing us closer even to the balcony, so that when you say you are calling Jesus, Jesus, Jesus at a time, I say don't think about anything, you are calling the name Jesus or Mary or kindness, anything you choose. As you are doing this particular work, if you continue for 30 minutes without your mind going anywhere, and you now get lost into this contemplative place, contemplative gaze, you may enter into what you call the crowd of unknown. This crowd of unknown is where God actually meets the lovers. So take them to the place of rest. We will still get there as we move on. Now, contemplation is rest. I have to emphasize this. We are changing the direction of our topic. Remember what the theme of today, getting ready to the journey of contemplation. We have said many things that is not contemplation. We are also saying that everyone can do contemplation. We can also say that Mary and Martha can have equal grace if two of them can be reconciled. If Mary could be able to see Jesus without losing sight of him while sitting in his presence. Because there are many people who sit like Mary in the chapels and many places of prayer in our world today, but their heart is not where Jesus is. They will be in the blessed sacraments and they will be sleeping. They are not there. Their mind is worried. They are even there planning how to revenge and attack their enemies. Are they contemplating? But there are many martyrs who are still far away from the churches and from the place. From their place of work, they are connected to Jesus, which we are teaching you that Martha can actually become Mary. And we want to say that article of faith is different from contemplation, consolation, and other things. Now, contemplation in its full meaning is rest. Now, what is rest? We must never try to suppress our feelings in our journey to the inner room. We can't suppress our feelings. Not to admit and not to seek them anymore is not clearly in our hands. By mere resting in and looking at the presence of God, they will turn off. So the simple thing I want to put here, for those who may come and ask questions, how can we rest? Last week I was trying to emphasize that resting is not actually sleeping. Because people may be sleeping on their bed, but they are not resting. Right on top of their bed, right as they are sleeping, you see them fighting. You see them, one animal will pursue them. You see one big evil spirit will be pursuing them while they are sleeping. So they will, from the place of sleeping, you see them shouting, crying, and women, and they will wake up. Restlessness. Rest is when we live in the present. We are going to talk about it in the next conference. How to find rest, how to rest, how to put everything still. So we should not try to suppress our mind, our feelings in order to rest. We should allow them to be. And then God will turn off the lights and we enter into the journey. Okay, let's go further now. Our action in contemplation. What can you do, or what are you expected to do when you are doing contemplation? Some people think you're doing because they'll be struggling to close your eyes to do this and that in order to get there. No, you have about 4 things you have to do. Number 1, you are looking. You look. Looking is the first one. Who are you looking at? You try to look. Look is like gazing with the eyes of love onto that man you want to see. Even though you will not see him, even though you don't see anything, but you can gaze. Now, number 2 is being aware. Being aware is being aware that you are here. You don't need to move far away from yourself. Be aware that you are in the presence. Number 3 is being conscious. Then, being conscious is that you should be conscious that you are making a journey of searching for the one you love. Then, number 4 will be paying attention to. You pay attention to something. Attention you are paying is attention to what God is saying. And I will give an assignment, which is practical assignment. To go into the field, anywhere, go and get in touch with the nature, look, be aware, be conscious, pay attention to, just be there. The last part is just be there. And how will this assignment I will give you be? The assignment is just like, enter into your garden, pick anything you like, gaze at that. Be conscious of it. Allow that thing you pick to speak to you. Don't connect anything far away from yourself. Be there. Only be there. Just be there. Look at it. Discover the beauty in it. When we begin to see beauty in nature, we begin to see God in everything. When we'll be able to see beauty even in our family, in what God has made. Some people have beautiful homes, but they have never sit down and look and gaze at this beautiful home where they live. Some has beautiful children, but they have not taken time to admire the beauty of their children. Some have beautiful husband or beautiful wife, but they have not taken time to see how beautiful and how wonderful these persons are. They keep on looking far away and get confused in the world. Some have been so much blessed that they cannot gaze and see this blessing God has showered on them. Their eyes and their mind is on something they have not yet acquired. How can you contemplate? So contemplation begins with looking, with being aware, being conscious, paying attention to, and just to be there. So in the depths, that's the last point here, there is no thought anymore, no image, no kind of consideration or making. The only thing that will remain is loving, so gazing and being. Loving, gazing and being. We will discover this when we get there. So that when we journey within to discover God, who is in the sanctuary of our hearts, everything will disappear. The only three things remain: loving, gazing, and being. When I mean being, is being there. And that being there is just be, just rest, just love, just gaze. And then the sweetness of life will be there. Now, in the end of everything, we begin by observation. Where are we? Listening. What comes to our face? It is all a matter of awareness. Contemplation does not have much in common with feeling and devotion. It happens rather at the level of spiritual awareness and that of being. And it's very important, I am repeating it. So contemplation does not have much in common with feelings and devotion. Contemplation is not expressing how you are feeling, how you love, whether God is shaking you, no. Whether you are happy, is not. God said be. At times, dryness may be there, painfulness, things may be extraordinarily painful, but Jesus wants you to be there, to just love. And that is contemplation. That's the beauty of contemplation. Now, look at something I will also say here. It happens rather in the level of spiritual awareness. Contemplation happens at the level of spiritual awareness and that of being. When a soul preserves in this blank space, God will surprise him by revealing himself to him. Very important. If a soul was able to preserve, remain in this struggle, in this blank space, a space where he doesn't even see anything, suddenly God will reveal himself. God reveals himself when we are at rest. Look at the first story we talk about. Elijah looking at God on the fire, on the thunder, and God was not there. Until that sheer silence, gentle breeze, there, behold the Lord. Now, so I encourage you to move from outer world to inner world within, and from thinking, making, to being and looking. If you really want to make this journey, you must struggle to stop the action of thinking, making, thinking that it is only when you sit down and be struggling that you get there. You get there only when you remain calm, you are at being. Now, what we do in rest, what are you going to do when you are resting? What do you expect? What is God expecting you to do at rest? Now, look at it this way. At rest, in resting, we try to be quiet and let the silence speak to us. Very important. Second, to be quiet and let the Lord work in us. Number 3, to be quiet and just enjoy being with Him, even if we feel nothing. And these 3 points is very, very important for you to consider. Number 1 again, in resting, you will try to be quiet and let the silence speak to us. The second we do is to be quiet and let the Lord work in us. And in the third part, to be quiet and just enjoy being with Him, even if we feel nothing. The Lord speaks to us, the Lord work in us. We desire to be with God, even if He did not. We are not feeling anything. We are not even feeling like encountering Him. We just be there, and then we see the sweetness of it. Now let us go further. Result of rest, as I conclude. In eternity, we shall rest, and we shall rest. We shall see, and we shall see. We shall love. We shall love, and we shall praise. This very statement is so interesting. It's a word of St. Augustine. Augustine will say, in eternity we shall rest, and when we rest we shall see. That means that we have to enjoy the contemplation. We begin the contemplation in rest. The contemplation begins in rest, because where God lives is eternity. And eternity simply means now, eternal now. That's eternity. Living in the present. So, when time, which we are going to discuss next week, the consideration of time and eternity, moving from time and finding yourself in eternity. When we make this reconciliation, we move into eternity in time. And it is only in eternity in time, living in the present, being there, that we can now experience eternity in time. And in this eternity in time, we find rest. And when we rest, we see. So when we rest, we see. And when we see, we love. And when we love, we praise. So we love, we see, and we praise. So take this capital words. Rest, we see. From seeing, we love. From loving, we praise. And that's the end point of contemplation. I will continue to summarize this for those who could still make the journey. So, in resting, we begin to journey that we begin the journey that will transform our lives. So, resting is the foundation of the beginning of contemplation. We shall find a new way of seeing and then a new way of loving. The time spent resting from all effort prepare us for a loving encounter with the Lord. Here, we cease struggling and letting Him enfold us in His peace. We are going to talk about it. We no longer wear ourselves with trying to find God or trying to gain His approval. Instead, we wait for Him in silence and in peace. We listen, and in the silence, we hear His gentle invitation to that quiet place within where He is waiting for us. So, my dear brothers and sisters, it is resting, calmness, that we will see Him. Some people will begin to wonder that we thought that there's a lot of energy. God said, in rest, we discover Him, who is silent. No wonder why even after creation of the world, on the seventh day, God has to rest. Because it is in this rest that we will appreciate what He has done. Now, is it all a waste of time to rest? The invitation to rest and begin to use part of our prayer time to rest is one our ego will not like. Many people will not like this, will be so much discouraged. The ego wants to be active, doing, making an effort to show God we are seriously intent on making good use of our time with Him. To be involved, to sit and rest do not please the ego. So we must be prepared to resist our ego and find time to rest. As Jesus said in Matthew chapter 11 verse 28. Come to me, all you who labor and overdoing things, and give you rest. That's rest we are talking about. In this rest, God will be doing all the doings, because it is no longer you who is now. You want to be active, you want to be so powerful. I remember some people naturally, God will like to teach them of the importance of contemplation. For years of their spiritual life, they are making a good journey, going from one place to another, praying, doing novenas, attending all the programs, do all the active work. Maybe suddenly God decided to give them one sickness, and they have to be on the bed. Their greatest sorrow will be, here on this bed, we have lost everything. We are no longer communicating. We don't go for pilgrimage anymore. We are not, whereas they have the greatest opportunity to enter into contemplative rest and enjoy God. So, I encourage you, let us learn how to take time and rest in order to find Him who is residing in the sanctuary of our heart. Any time you use to rest, to contemplate, is not a waste time. Rest, then we see. And when we see, we love. Rest opens our eyes to something great. The dark tunnel and the crowd of unknown. Darkness results from the lack of knowledge. Something unknown to us. What obstructs God from us is not a crowd in the sky, but the crowd of unknown. This crowd is like a narrow tunnel of total darkness, since the senses are in the dark. So, when you rest, and we tell you, forget about thinking, forget about making, there is a place where you will eventually land yourself. And where is this place you will land yourself? Into the unknown. And we call it the darkness of unknown. The dark crowd of unknown. When we call it the crowd of unknown is that the crowd that came out of the crowd of forgotten. When you are not thinking, when you are just there. It is not that heaven comes down. It's not physical crowd. It's just like you are empty. You are at rest. You are still. You are in the presence. And then God will take you from there and reveal Himself to you. I will still say it is God who will reveal Himself to you, not you who will even find Him, because we are limited in discovering where He is. God will still say, here I am. You will now meet Him and see Him. He's the one who will take you from this crowd of unknown to that true vision, the true light of contemplation. And I will also encourage you, don't give up from here. From now onwards, you'll be hearing me talking about the crowd of unknown, that came as a result of crowd of forgotten. Now, I repeat what I just said, that darkness results from a lack of knowledge, something unknown to us. What obstructs God from us is not a crowd in the dark, but the crowd of unknown, because God can never be known. This crowd is like a narrow tunnel of total darkness, since the senses are in the dark. So we now talk about the crowd of forgotten. If you want to enter, live and walk in the crowd of unknown, you need a crowd of forgotten between you and the things of the earth. So we need the crowd of forgotten to be able to enter into the crowd of unknown. This crowd of forgotten has to be between the world. You have to forget the world and yourself. Then, in this way, we enter into the crowd of unknown. And from this cloud of unknown, the journey begins.
Agonizing Lord Jesus Christ, Lord, you suffered on Calvary. You hung there bleeding for my sake.